Members, may I invite you to join me in the opening prayer. Almighty God, the source of knowledge and understanding, guide the minds of those who are about to take counsel together on matters concerning this county, that in their debate and in their decisions they may faithfully discharge the duties of their office and promote the health, safety and well-being of those they seek to serve. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Thank you. Other councillors, officers and members of the public who are listening and via Zoom webcast, welcome to our council meeting this evening. Before we get onto the agenda proper, I'd like to remind members to please ensure your microphone is switched on for the benefit of the webcast and recording. Item 1, apologies.
Chairman, we've received apologies from councillors Toseland, McCartney, Webb and Walters. Therefore, councillors voting to 23 this evening.
Thank you. Item 2, Chairman's announcements. I'll just nip through them quickly. Proclamation of King Charles III in the grounds of Oakham Castle was well attended. I believe that we outdid Leicester for what they attended, but I'm not sure. But I have it on authority, quite good authority that the numbers that we had outdid them, so that was good. Oakham in Bloom attended that, and the commemoration of Her Majesty the Queen at All Saints, which was, the church was packed. It was very good service. And the investiture of the Lord Lieutenant's Cadets, that was interesting. First time I've been, and to see the cadets passing out, and they did a parade for us and music with the drums and everything else. It was a really nice night. The High Sheriff's concert last night, we had Freya Goldmark giving us recitals on the violin, absolutely fantastic. And the High Sheriff raised quite a lot of money for the first responders. And could I just add another one that I attended, but it wasn't official. It was to the rugby club, Oakham Rugby Club, as a past captain and chairman. It was their 100th centenary this year, and we had a dinner there, and Councillor Brown attended it as well. And I'd just like to congratulate them on their 100 years, because they're in a lot of clubs just at this minute are struggling a bit, and it's nice to see that they've been going all that time. And I'd like to remind members of the various upcoming events of the weekend, this weekend, to commemorate the remembrance, and I hope to see as many of you as we can there. So item 3, I think I've got several announcements here, haven't I? The announcements from the leader, members of Cabinet, head of paid service. So the first one up is Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yesterday was the deadline for nominations for the Multum Awards, and I wanted to thank all the members who've helped spread the word, encourage people to put in their nominations, and I gather we've had a good few come in, so the judging panel will be having a tough task of choosing the winners. The other thing I wanted to highlight to members, the cost of living support in Rutland booklet is available online, and also it is in the libraries, or will be in the libraries. Our adult social care frontline workers also have copies. Citizens Advice Rutland also have copies, as well as our Rutland Food Bank. Do spread the word to residents. There is no need to suffer in silence or alone. There's lots of help available, and it is rutland.gov.uk/living costs. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Powell.
Thank you, Chair. I know that members and residents continue to raise the question and are concerned about progress on any negotiations with South Kesteven District Council about the allocation of 650 houses at Quarry Farm. I just wanted to reassure members that both the leader and I are continuing to liaise with South Kesteven at a political level, and that Rutland officers are having ongoing discussions with their South Kesteven counterparts on the detailed implications. It's also to be noted that Rutland has made its position clear in our response to the South Kesteven latest annual position statement, which did not include Quarry Farm in their 5-year land supply calculations. And we advised in our response that our intention is that any development on the Quarry Farm site would now be required to meet Rutland's housing needs. Whilst this is still subject to discussions between the two authorities, I recognise as the new local plan develops and we consider the Quarry Farm planning application, this will need to be decided once and for all, and we're determined to get this resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Oxley.
Thank you, Chair. I've got 3 announcements to make. I've got a brief statement on the incident at Foster's Bridge. The driver had collected a skip from North Luffinham HWRC on Saturday morning and was making his way to our disposal site at Colsterworth, and between 7:30 and 8 he collided with the bridge. The driver was taken to hospital where he remains, and he's conscious and currently recovering from his injuries, and we are hopeful he will be home in a few days. Biffa, our waste contractor, are taking the incident extremely seriously and have notified the relevant authorities and their insurers, and they're in the process of undertaking a full investigation to try and establish what happened, and don't currently have a definitive explanation for what led to the incident. The A6121 road was closed following the incident and will remain closed for at least the next few weeks until November the 21st. And the bridge will be assessed and repaired before the road and track can be reopened, and the diversion route is via the A1. As a result of the incident, Biffa were unable to exchange full skips at the 2 HWRCs, and as we are unable to accept any further waste, we had to take the decision to close fully Cottesmore and to close Luffinham early on Sunday. And Biffa now have a replacement vehicle borrowed from another contract and also have a hire vehicle arriving tomorrow. And they're concentrating on clearing Luffinham today, Monday, so they can open as normal tomorrow, Tuesday. Cottesmore will remain closed today, Monday, and from Tuesday onward, both sites should be able to operate as normal. So that's the first one. The second announcement I have to make, all 4 of the Rutland County Council's public libraries, that's Oakham, Uppingham, Ketton and Ryle, will be available as warm places during their regular opening hours over the winter period, and details can be found at rutlandlibraries.org.uk. In addition, volunteer-led Warm Hub extended hours will operate at Ketton Library on Mondays, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 till 4. This is starting from Monday the 7th of November, with the library opening on Wednesday, Friday and Saturday as normal. Volunteer-led Warm Hub extended hours for Ryle Library will also commence from Wednesday the 9th of November and will run every Wednesday from 10 until 4. For the winter months of December, January and February, this will be extended to Tuesday, Wednesday and Friday from 10 till 4. And the library will continue to open as normal on Mondays, Thursdays and Saturdays. And Uppingham Methodist Church will operate on a warm welcome hub during the winter months, each Monday and Wednesday from 10 until 12. And Oakham Methodist Church will be providing a similar service, and details are to be confirmed at a later stage. And my third announcement, the start of the week leading up to Remembrance Sunday has been marked by the planting of a display of homemade poppies at Oakham Castle earlier today. And the poppies were made by the prisoners at HMP Stockham, who are also military veterans. And I'm sure Councillor Ainsley will have more to say on the subject later tonight, so I will leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Chair. It's been a busy time since our last full council. The Housing for Ukraine scheme is still busy. We have 104 Ukrainians currently settled in the county. I'm pleased that 3 are employed within the council, including 1 within the Homes for Ukraine team. Our first guests have reached their 6-month mark and our team are busy helping them with next steps. As with everyone, the cost of living crisis is also affecting our sponsors, and I'm pleased that we are able to offer an additional payment of £150 a month on top of the £350 from the 1st of November until March to help with some of those costs. I'd like to thank both our housing and finance teams for their speedy work to ensure we could offer this as soon as possible. Our Health and Wellbeing Board met on the 11th of October. We had an extremely busy agenda. Highlights included an update on primary care, diagnostics, outpatients and elective care, the winter vaccination programme and the cost of living crisis. I would urge members to look at the published minutes for further details. John Morley and I have met with colleagues from Leicestershire Partnership NHS Trust who run Rutland Memorial, and we're all committed to health and social care integration. We've had early conversations about how we can join up care for our people in Rutland. Our NHS partners are committed to work with the County Council and with local voluntary groups to deliver the best outcomes. Following the NHS's investment of 1.2 million to refurbish Rutland Memorial, we are confident that we all wish to see further investment in the NHS estate here in Rutland. Further meetings are happening with Mark Andrews and the chief execs in the NHS to develop a more detailed plan on what we can do. This will be available in 2023. Adult social care continues to be challenging, with more people presenting with complex issues needing services and continuing pressure to ensure prompt discharge from hospital. This is all likely to worsen as winter progresses. In addition, the services are preparing for the new CQC regulations from April 23 we will be subject to, as well as the adult social care charging reforms for next October. I'm pleased to confirm our initial submission for the fairer cost of care was submitted in October, and the team are busy preparing for the next part. My thanks to the team for all the hard work on these vital pieces of work. Finally, I'm pleased to take up the role of co-chair for the Leicester City and Rutland Health and Wellbeing Partnership, the ICP. Currently, the partnership is busy developing the joint strategy that's due by the end of the year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 4, declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest this evening? No, thank you. Item 5, to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting of the council held on the 5th of September. Can I have a proposer? Councillor Stevenson, seconder. Councillor Powell. All those in favour?
That is unanimous, Chair, with the exception of one councillor who wasn't in attendance.
Thank you. There's no petitions, deputations and questions. Item 6. Item 7, questions from members of the council. We've got 2 this evening. I'll take them in the order they were received. So Councillor Waller, please.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is addressed to Councillor Powell. The planning for the Stamford North development is well advanced, and a planning application has been submitted for the part of the development within Rutland at Quarry Farm. However, it appears that neither the part of the site within Rutland nor that within Stamford includes provision for a medical practice. Can the portfolio holder please tell us whether discussions with South Kesteven District Council and/or Allison Homes include a medical practice building being built as part of the developer contributions for Stamford North? Thank you.
Councillor Powell.
Thank you, Councillor Waller, for your question. And I agree that access to health facilities is a key concern for Rutland residents. And I know that questions have been raised about the opportunity we have to provide such facilities within new planning applications. I can confirm there's no proposed allocation of land for medical facilities within the Allison Homes planning application at Quarry Farm, which is currently being assessed by Rutland County Council and which will come to the planning committee in due course. The planning application for the adjacent site of Stamford North, located in South Kesteven, has not yet been submitted. This is expected to be received by the end of the year, and proposals, as you say, are well advanced. Whilst the 2 applications are being dealt with by the 2 councils, they do make up one development, and it had been anticipated that they would both come forward at the same time with a master plan for the whole site, so that infrastructure across the whole site could be considered. But disappointingly, this was not the case, and Allison Homes have already submitted their applications. You asked whether negotiations include developer contributions for a medical practice. There is no proposal to include land at the site for a medical facility at Quarry Farm, but there is a proposed community building on site, which may be used for some health provision. Pre-application discussions with the landowners and developers at Stamford North site do include potential provision of health facilities as well as a primary school. We need to be clear, though, that provision of land on the site, or indeed any money for health or community facilities, is not the same as provision of a GP medical practice. There isn't that basic assumption. I would add that Rutland will receive community infrastructure levy money from developers based on the square meterage of houses built at Quarry Farm. How this money is utilised is at Rutland's discretion. We've identified investment in health facility as a priority allocation of these funds, which will be reinforced in the paper that will be brought to Cabinet in December. But this is dependent on applications from health to access these funds based on their assessment of population needs. My Cabinet colleague has already referred to some of those priorities, and I will leave her to expand on any health investment priorities. I've covered off the area of development which is in my portfolio. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary?
I don't, thank you, Chairman. That was a clear answer.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Paul Brown, please.
Thank you, Chair. The question is to the portfolio holder for health, wellbeing and adult care. I have seen, to preface it somewhat, that we have had some response to the question I'm going to ask already, but perhaps the portfolio holder could put her slant on, whatever she may be able to do to add to what has been said by Councillor Powell. The question is, difficulties in accessing GPs have been a concern of many Rutland residents for some time, and the number of Rutland residents leaving the Lakeside healthcare practice in Stamford to join Empingham medical practice has added to the pressure on GP services. With regard the proposed Stamford North development, can the portfolio holder detail the discussions she has had both with Leicestershire and Rutland Integrated Care Board and its Lincolnshire equivalent to fund a GP practice on the Stamford North site should a building be provided through developer contribution?
Thank you, Councillor Brown. So following on from Councillor Powell's response, I can confirm that primary care provision in the county has been a priority for both the Health and Wellbeing Board and the ICB. As members are aware, it is a complex issue, compounded by scattered developments that are coming forward through planning. The ICB have a strategic group tasked with reviewing primary care within Rutland, and the results will be available in the next few months. As part of that work, they are regularly updated with approved applications so they can form part of the review. Specifically on Stamford North development, our health colleagues share our disappointment on the lack of a master plan on the whole site. That being said, a strategic meeting featuring officers of LLR and Lincolnshire ICBs, so by both ICBs, both local authorities and the developers, is held monthly to discuss the matter.
Do you have a supplementary?
Thank you. I think the answer is complete. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 8, referral of committee decisions. There are no referrals. Item 9, call-in of decisions from Cabinet. There are none. Item 10, reports from Cabinet. 10A is the financial sustainability strategy. Councillor Payne is going to present it.
Members, you will be aware of what's going on around you in the economy at the moment. The cost of living crisis is hitting each and every one of us at an individual and business level, and councils are no exception. They are in the same boat. The whole of local government is facing a financial crisis. It's reported that 1 in 6 councils may not survive the next 6 months. However, due to prudent management now and in the past, this council is not in imminent danger, but we are facing the same financial problems. Cost and demand are increasing, but funding is decreasing. To add to this, the political environment is extremely unstable and constantly changing. Last month, I attended a local government association financial leadership course. There are a number of councils in the room in a very poor financial state. They could be part of the statistic I mentioned earlier. Some already have government intervention in their finances and everyday running. We don't want this for Rutland. Only a few councils in the room had a strategy for financial sustainability or a plan to tackle their deficit in their medium-term financial plan. For Rutland to be a fiscally responsible council, it is imperative we have a strategy to tackle our deficit. From the budget, you will know that in our medium-term financial plan, we have a funding gap of 2.8 million, which grows to 4 million as we have to spend more than our funding provides to run the services that we currently offer. The size of the gap should be treated with caution. Things are changing quickly since the strategy was developed, and we have had our pay settlement, a new Prime Minister has been appointed, and the autumn statement is not far away with the threat of austerity back. The local government financial settlement in December will never be more important. After 12 months of inflation hitting our cost base and new care cap reforms on the horizon, we have reached a pivotal moment. If councils are not properly funded in December, then many more than 1 in 6 will be requesting their viability. It would be irresponsible, if not negligent, to ignore the deficit in our budget, and we must act now. Within our corporate objectives, we commit to being financially sustainable. We need to balance our books and ensure we live within our means. We have a strategy to do this. It won't happen overnight, because to do something quickly would be silly. It can't be done without public consultation, complying without regulation and the law. Taking action quickly is high risk and definitely not our preferred option. We cannot break the organisation in the process. So our strategy is to use our rainy day money, our reserves, to subsidise our spending by a maximum of £2 million a year until 27-28, to enable us to take a more measured and less risky approach to reviewing how we spend our money. But this is part of a bigger plan. We still need to make savings. Even with the £2 million per annum subsidy we are proposing, we still have to make savings of £800,000 in 23-24 and 1.6 million the year after in 24-25. This is a huge challenge. Members, please take a moment to think and get your head around what the council will look like if we are spending £4 to £5 million less. Just think about what this could do to the services we deliver. We will be spending less, and that will have an impact somewhere. Times will be difficult because we will want to keep residents happy whilst we deliver change. This will be hard, and sometimes we may not always achieve this, but we must make the council financially robust and fit for the future. We do not want Rutland County Council to become one of the councils forecast to fail in the next 6 months, as previously mentioned. To help us achieve this challenge, we have begun a transformation project. This is being led by the Chief Executive and the corporate leadership team. We have also appointed a transformation consultant, Human Engine, who will help us on aspects of it, and they will work with us to understand what is possible with the funding that we do receive. The great work members did earlier this year to identify cost savings initiatives will feed into this work. The member identified initiatives alone will not produce the savings of the magnitude we need to successfully overcome the challenge we have in front of us. We need to do more, change the way we work and the services we deliver. The strategy you have been asked to approve tonight has the support of the Section 151 officer, the Chief Executive and Cabinet. It delivers a set of broad principles against the information that we have now. In the future, if the environment we are operating in changes, we may need to revisit these principles or the action required. The next key stopping point will be the settlement in December. Armed with the figures, we will be able to check whether we continue as planned or need to make changes. You will be aware that Councillor Walters submitted an amendment by way of alteration in addition to the proposal we have tonight. In support of his words, under Procedure Rule 32, brackets 4, motions generally. As proposer, I will alter the proposal in the document 158/2022 to read: 1. Approves the recommendation from Cabinet to approve a financial strategy for closing the financial gap as detailed in report number 158/2022 with the limitations set out in 2A and 2B below. 2A states, Council understands that the calculations in this strategy are based on the best information available at the time, and for the purposes of the calculations, and only for that purpose, make reference to raising council tax by the maximum allowed under the current rules each year during the period of the strategy. However, 2B, nothing in this strategy should be taken to predetermine the level of council tax or rising council tax in any year. The actual level of council tax will be calculated each year in the normal way according to need, and then will be subject to approval by a meeting of full council. I thank Councillor Walters for his words that make explicit what was implicit in the document. I believe Councillor Stevenson is seconding this. These are difficult times, members. There's no doubt about it. I ask for your support to make the financial sustainability strategy that we have collectively put together to make us leaner and fitter, to ensure a strong future for Rutland County Council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I've got a seconder.
Seconding and reserving my right to speak. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Members. Anybody want to speak? Councillor Waller.
I'm surprised that people are slow to speak on this. Rutland, like all local authorities, is trying to manage in the context of reduced government grants, increased costs due to additional government requirements, and the effects of inflation, both on the council and our contractors. We all recognise this and recently spent many hours considering potential budget reductions, which in turn officers had spent many hours drawing up for us. And Councillor Payne referred to this in her introduction. What I now ask is, was this time wasted? The proposal before us is not to make clear budget reductions to help us live within our means, but to adopt a strategy which uses reserves to prop up the budget, suggests we look for savings in the future and lobby government for more money. And yet the paper tells us in paragraph 3.2.6, third bullet, if you want to look it up, that without more funding from the government, it will be difficult for the council to deliver services and reduce expenditure, and thus the strategy is flawed. Appendix A gives no indication of how the immediate savings are to be achieved, so we can't judge how realistic they are, and therefore can't judge how effective this strategy is, so the strategy is flawed. And Appendix B is, according to its own heading, illustrative. So we could be wildly wrong. The strategy is flawed. All the Conservative-led Cabinet is doing in proposing this strategy to us is putting off the decisions needed around the budget till after the elections next May. Taking the necessary difficult decisions now might not help their election prospects, but delaying them could make things far worse for Rutland. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members? Councillor Fox.
I'm pleased that the recommendation C has been dropped. Members all attended meetings last year with our Chief Finance Officer, who told us we needed to make savings now. I was looking forward to getting my teeth into a project to help reform our services and requested on several occasions the next step of the journey, what it was. I was told this was no longer a project for members and the senior management team would be working on this and recommendations would follow, but nothing has happened. Cabinet have been told incremental changes will not work, but I've always been under the impression that £1 saved today will be compounded with an effect over 4 years. The senior management team and officers seem to be backing a strategy that a company called Human Engine is going to rush in with a magic wand and save the day. Looking at their website, they have worked with the NHS and several large councils on procurement contracts to achieve savings. However, most of ours have been extended, so if they do highlight some significant changes, how long is that going to be before those changes can be made? 2 to 4 years, maybe? Cabinet are also being told by Councillor Payne that we are held in regard by the LGA as being one of the best councils for being well run. I assume this means making the most of the funds available to us. So how much are we paying Human Engine for this service? Can members see sight of their brief? And why hasn't this been looked at by scrutiny? What happens if they cannot recommend any significant changes and we just have wasted another 6 months kicking the ball into the long grass? 99% of businesses in the UK are micro or small businesses. They cannot afford to pay inflation plus percentage pay rises. It will be the middle class and the retired who will feel the effects of maximum council tax rises the most. The retired are on fixed income and small businesses cannot afford to pay inflation pay rises as many are struggling to keep afloat. Families are struggling with a hike in mortgages, fuel costs to heat their homes, rises in food and fuel costs. I therefore suggest that we seriously look at our strategy of increasing our council tax when we come next year to review it. Thank you.
Any other members? Councillor G. Brown. Yes. The right one.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Nice to be here. Chair, first of all, I'd like to pose a question to the Leader of Council. I know she has political aspirations, but I didn't realise she wanted to emulate the previous Leader of the Conservative Party in carrying out a series of U-turns, especially one which the Council just agreed 4 months ago. Let me explain. In July, 4th of July this year, Councillor Stevens proposed and most members voted for a new corporate strategy. And on page 12 of that strategy, which we supported generally, it's repeated on paragraph 2.1.1 in tonight's papers in front of members tonight, and I'll quote, it says, ensuring the council can live within its means, only spending funding it receives and balance the budget in any given year without using general fund reserves. This is our #1 priority. The corporate strategy reaffirms this commitment and it was supported by most members. This is an important message to all stakeholders, members, staff, partners and public alike, end quote. If we agree with the proposals this evening, we will be throwing out our #1 priority. I'd just like to maybe ask the monitoring officer whether in fact this is in breach of Procedure Rule 35, because we're about to turn over a decision just made 4 months ago. If the recommendation is in order, then why does the report not make it clear that this is in fact a U-turn by the Cabinet? I am pleased to note that the portfolio holder has accepted Councillor Walter's recommendation or his amendment regarding council tax, and that we're not going to saddle the next 4 years of council with maximising council tax rises. I was particularly concerned about this because if the Chancellor next week stands up and says, oh, councils can raise their council tax by 10%, not 3% or 5%, then we could have been sitting here saying, oh, that's only 10% where we've got to increase it by, another 2% potentially for adult social care. But I'm pleased that there has been a further U-turn on that by the Leader and the Cabinet. My final point, Chair, a commitment was made by Cabinet, and I think my colleagues on this side of the table have discussed it already, but I want to take it further. A commitment was made by Cabinet at budget scrutiny meeting on the 27th of January this year to bring forward a programme of significant savings. During the summer, group leaders worked with members to identify those which could be supported. And there was a majority support on many of these proposals. As recently as the end of August, just 9 weeks ago, group leaders believed this work would continue to drive a significant proportion of this required savings. Yet, they seem to have been missed from this paper we're seeing tonight. Although I did note at Cabinet that the work would be passed to the Human Engine for them to consider next year, meaning that the savings would be further delayed. However, I do agree with the portfolio holder that even more savings would be required than those that were put forward by the members during the summer. And maybe Human Engine could rev up those savings, but it is a good start with cross-chamber support would have a lasting impact on revenue expenditure in this year if we brought those forward. So I do not understand why the leader has done a U-turn on this programme as well. Given the uncertainty that the council faces, and I think the portfolio made this point this evening, from central government funding, risk over council tax revenue, business rates revenue, a potentially year-long recession ahead of us, demand-led expenditure rising faster than we expected, the fairer cost of adult social care, etc., etc., etc. We could go on all night. I would have thought we need to pursue these cost savings now and not wait till next summer. And in fact, I think the portfolio holder said in her remarks, we must act now, and I would fully support that. The other issue I have is, if you look at Appendix A, which is mentioned in the report, it provides no details on how much savings these activities will provide, other than a general remark of £1 million in the transformation programme. Also in Appendix B2, in the 23-24, this coming year, in reality, there's only £200,000 of savings, a drop in the ocean, given the figures that we heard this evening. £300,000 of that is a windfall due to interest rate increases, and this cannot be relied upon in future years. It's a one-off saving and not for the future. Chair, before I make a suggested amendment, I would also like to ask, with your agreement, that tonight Council is asked to vote on each of the recommendations separately and not en bloc. I think there's a general feeling around the table for that. So therefore, I would therefore propose an amendment to the motion in front, on addition actually, to us stating that asking Cabinet to re-engage with members of Council to bring forward cost savings at the earliest opportunity based on the work carried out by members during the summer of 2022, which was just 9 weeks ago, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm content to have it read as long as you put it.
Could you repeat that?
Excuse me, Chair.
So we've got the amendment, which is that
Sorry, Chair, we've got just a question from the portfolio holder.
Councillor Brown did challenge whether this whole procedure was legal, in order.
Can I have a seconder for the amendment first, and then we'll. Yeah. Is that right? And now you can come back in if you want to.
Sorry. Okay. During his speech, Councillor Brown did challenge. Sorry. During his speech, Councillor Brown did challenge whether this whole procedure was in order. Should we have an answer to that question as well, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I can confirm that this is in order and that this does not constitute a breach of Procedure Rule 35.
Chair, could maybe we have an explanation why it is?
I'll allow you to come back. Anybody else?
It's not, this isn't a forum for me to debate with members. I'm very happy to take this conversation offline and make the general point that it would probably have been helpful if you raised this with me prior to the meeting.
Any other members? Councillor Baines.
Sorry, Chair, are we debating the amendment?
We've got to do the amendment first.
Yes.
Yep, okay, sorry. So we'll do the amendment first. It has been proposed and seconded that Cabinet will re-engage with members of the council to bring forward cost savings at the earliest opportunity based on the work carried out by members during the summer of 2022. All in favour?
Are we debating it?
You're opening up to debating.
Sorry, yep. Apologies. Yeah, we'll open it for debate. Anybody? Councillor Payne.
I would like to point out that we are re-engaging with the budget process. We do have a series of projects that we will actually going to introduce to scrutiny on the 17th of November that has been worked up by the CLT, and the series of projects does have values and owners against them. So we should be ready to go.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? No. Councillor Warren.
I'm speaking to the amendment. I take Councillor Payne's point that the next overview and scrutiny committee is going to be considering the budget. This has been agreed, it is on the agenda. However, I'm not certain that what we will be doing in scrutiny is actually the process that is described in this amendment. And I would like some clarity on that from the proposer before I make any comment about, well, before I vote at least, because my sense is that in scrutiny, we will be scrutinising what is proposed by the portfolio holder, but this amendment is about continuing to work together cross-council to come up with a solution. So one is, here is the solution, what do you think about it? The other is, how do we build the solution together? That's my understanding. I would like clarity.
Do you want to come back on?
Thank you, Chair. I left the proposed amendment quite loose. I was hoping that the Cabinet would come forward and say, yes, we will engage with you and come forward with a programme to deliver that at the earliest opportunity, either the next few months and not the next few years. So I left it deliberately loose for that, but it was very much a member engaged with the Cabinet, with the officers, to try and get some of these savings delivered as early as possible, with the support of members, because I think that was the key point that I was making. Members already generally supported many of these cost savings, and we're missing an opportunity to engage.
Okay. Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm speaking to the amendment. It feels, I understand the sentiment of that, Councillor Brown. We all want to have ownership over what is happening and empowerment with it. What I would suggest is that you appear to be inventing a different system to the one that we already have. We've had Cabinet papers coming where members are always welcome to speak to the portfolio holders. We have a scrutiny process. If members feel that there needs to be a separate programme of work on top of the structures and mechanisms that we already have in place, then obviously we are in your hands. I would also like to remind members that we are about to, well, sorry, Mr. Della Rocca, the budgeting process obviously is already underway and members are always fully involved in that. So I know Councillor Brown has left it deliberately loose. I would actually come back and say, I think it needs to be a little more specific. Is Councillor Brown talking about additional meetings with additional work for officers on top of the existing work that is already happening? What is the value added with that? And has he done a cost analysis of that, because I would like to think that we can work together, talking through the with the portfolio holder. We regularly update. We have group leaders meetings with the chief exec. So I would ask for a little more detail on that, because I think in this case it feels slightly odd, Councillor Brown. It's usually the other way around. I would like a very precise explanation of what this looks like in practice. Thank you.
Did you want to come back?
Thank you, Chair. Fundamentally continuing the process that the Cabinet started, Chair, that the was told to scrutiny back on the 27th of January. It's really as simple as that. And I think I do take exception, because on the, I think it was the 12th of October, I sat as one of the opposition leaders with the leader of the council and the other, unfortunately, Councillor Waller wasn't able to join us for other reasons, but with the other leaders of the groups and the portfolio holder, and went through these points with them at that time. So this is not new. I've already expressed that, and that was before the Cabinet meeting, and there's no reference to those comments at the Cabinet meeting. But it's a continuation of the process which was started and which the members fully engaged with and supported, and it appears to have just been fully dropped and will be passed on to the human engine at some stage in the future.
Councillor Ainsley.
Thank you. I'm completely at a loss. I cannot understand the Cabinet's position on this at all. We started the engagement with members and we spent a considerable amount of time looking at potential cost savings and working through it. We produced a list of potential cost savings. I understood that this work was going to be further taken on by officers. What seems to have happened is that we're now saying we mustn't rush into change, we mustn't rush into savings. And I sincerely believe that we should, as proposed by the amendment, continue the work that was started earlier this year. After all, as was said by other members, a penny saved now will save £1 in the future. If we act as quickly as we can to make savings and as prudently as we can, then we should be a lot better off. I don't understand the reluctance of Cabinet to address that now.
Don't come back.
Oh, sorry, it wasn't a reluctance.
Councillor Payne.
Oh, sorry, I'll let you.
Thank you, Chair. Just to go back on what I've just said, there has been a continuous process working behind the scenes as well. The changes don't happen without the officer engagement. The officers have been reviewing that programme of work. It's still very much alive, and we have a list now that we're ready to kick off on. So it's not dead. We will re-engage once the officers have finished that review, and they have nearly done that in the next couple of weeks.
I come back on.
Councillor Ainsley.
Yeah, what I still don't understand. Potentially because if you're doing the work now, why isn't it in the paper? Why was it not mentioned? This has come as a total surprise to me and to several other members, I would suggest, around this forum.
Councillor Oxley.
Thank you, Chairman. Those members who were listening to what was said earlier would note that the portfolio holder had said that we won't be able to make the savings needed from the exercise that we undertook earlier in the year. She made that plain. So whilst we will be looking to try and find savings from that exercise, we won't be able to make the significant savings that we need to find now. The world we are in now is completely different to the world that we had back in January. We have had 2 prime ministers since then. They are still prevaricating about how much they're going to pay. We have asked them specifically on a number of occasions, and they are still not able to tell us how much money they're going to give us. How many local authorities are going to go to the wall? This is what we are facing. We are having to do a root and branch exercise to ensure that we will be financially viable in 2 or 3 years' time. We've had to go to Human Engine because they have the expertise in order to be able to assist us in that process. But the world is a different place. So that's where we are now. We are not where we were 2 weeks ago. We are now, every week it is evolving. So I wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Baines.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I took the original paper to mean the direction of travel and the strategy, and welcomed it as such. I assumed that any implications on the budget would inform the budget rather than predetermine it. I didn't think I was voting for anything else at this point. I think we are well aware that historically we are underfunded, it's unfair. We've all gone through that debate time and time again. I'd entirely agree with Councillor Gordon Brown's comments about the uncertainty that we would meet with central government decision or lack of decision, and therefore we are in one sense less vulnerable to those major shifts because we are so dependent on council tax, and in that way I think it cuts both ways. Councillor Brown also mentioned U-turn. I know this is the fashionable phrase at the moment. A week or two ago, members, I was driving in Leicester and losing my way as usual. And I came across in the dual carriageway a sign saying no U-turn. At which point the dictatorial lady on my sat-nav said, now take a U-turn. Well, I don't disobey her. So the point I'm making is one that in a sense Councillor Oxley has already made, that the sign saying no U-turn was no doubt in the normal sense of things perfectly good, but the sat-nav lady got me to my destination, enabled me to do my business in the time that I'd got available. And I think we are in a similar situation on U-turn. It's a very easy thing to say. And I didn't feel that the amendment with respect did anything to alter the way in which we should be approaching this. I don't think it is political manoeuvring with respect, Councillor Boyle. I think it is simply a matter of coming at it in a logical way for the ultimate benefit. And we're not just talking about one electoral cycle here. We're talking about the next, at least I would say, members, the next 10 years for Rutland in the decisions we make tonight. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Hemsley.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I understand we have a mechanism, as the leader suggested, for dealing with various meetings, so scrutiny and cabinet and things. But I do think that we are in quite extraordinary times, and we've known this for a long time. When I was leader, it was very clear that we were under financial pressure and we need to be looking at things. We started early on it, we got underway, and I know that the team behind the officers have done a huge amount of work. And they don't need additional work to do. But if we're all involved and we use our strengths and our intelligences, I'm sure that we can be supportive of the general direction, because I see several things that I think could be done better. But, you know, we need to have a general consensus, not from just us, but the officers and also the residents of Rutland, that we actually are in this position and we need to move forward. So I do think it's really important that we think about full engagement of all of us to take this journey forward. Thank you.
Anybody else? Members. Councillor Powell.
Thank you, Chair. As I hope I've stood up for full engagement with this council, which is one of the reasons why I pushed forward on having that early discussion on the local plan. And I think it's very important. As Councillor Payne has said, a lot of work went into those cost-saving initiative analysis by members, and that time I think was very well spent. We've done that. We're at the stage now where officers are reviewing those, and as Councillor Payne has said, the next step then is to actually have some sort of proposals brought forward. So I think members have been engaged and that has been appreciated, but I will very you know, I'll be championing for members to continue to be engaged in the way that Councillor Payne has set out. I think we have to be clear, and we can go back to debating the whole paper afterwards. I'm just talking on the amendment, that members we have to concentrate on what we want this council to look like. What are the services that are going to be available to residents and what it'll look like? It is for, and that is our strategy and our policy, to work for every member to work through the mechanics of what actually could be changed on an operational point of view is not our job. Our job is to look at the vision, to feed in ideas and what we think might be acceptable, what it might look like, but we have to respect that part of the process, which then goes to the officers to actually interpret and look at the real detailed implications of that, which I think is part of the process, is the stage where we're at. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members? So the amendment has been proposed by Councillor G. Brown and seconded by Councillor Ainsley, that the Cabinet will re-engage with members of the Council to bring forward cost savings at the earliest opportunity based on the work carried out by members during the summer of 2022. All in favour?
Nine, Chairman.
Against?
$11, Chairman, but I did realise I didn't see if Councillor Beggy. Yes, sorry, that was 10-4.
Sorry,
I hadn't included the Vice Chairman, so that is 10-4 and 11 against, with two.
Yeah, two abstentions.
two abstentions.
Two abstentions, yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, the motion has failed, Chair.
Yeah, so the amendment falls. So we go back to the main debate on with the papers. There we go. So we need to- That we've got the page, sorry. Yeah, so we go into the debate now on the main recommendations. Members. Councillor Baines.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Quite often, members, there is one sentence, one paragraph in the myriad pages of a report. And for me, the key one on this was 3.3. And it, if I can find my own page, yes, it is 3.3b. And it says delivers a smaller but functional council that spends less on service offer whilst protecting the most vulnerable and enabling the community to do more for itself. And I think the balance that we all have to meet is, where do we provide services as a council and where do we enable? And I think it needs, and it has to, in financial terms, I think it's got to have the emphasis on that second one. And then that is my personal opinion, and that is why I would certainly support the motion. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you very much, Chair. You may remember back to January 21, as we seem to enjoy months and specific dates, where I talked about a motion regarding the climate crisis. And I know we had some spirited debate about whether it was an emergency or a crisis. Emergency is knee-jerk, immediate reactions, amputating the leg or the person dies. Crisis management, the leg is saved. We are in a financial crisis, and we have been so since I was elected in 2011. There's always been a financial gap predicted as we head towards the late 20s. So far, what we have done is incredible prudent management, so that we have reserves to enable us to get to a position of financial stability in a sustainable, measured way. Yes, we are committed to balancing those books without using reserves. But the question is this, members, how do you want to do it? Slash and burn? That will damage this county. If it was achievable and feasible, presumably the previous finance portfolio holder would have delivered that in his time. We are now in a position with a sensible, measured approach that delivers financial sustainability, because actually the situation for the next decade isn't going to get any easier globally. Climate crisis, still recovering from the pandemic, interest rates up across the world. We need, as a county, to be able to manage ourselves. That means transformation. It means change. And that doesn't happen overnight. We need to be clear about what this council is and what it delivers for our residents and what we will support our community to be enabled to do. This strategy enables us to do that. And members have already said, I think the portfolio holder has already said, there are assumptions in it that may well mean that we do need to revisit it. That isn't U-turning, that's being rational. It would be very foolhardy to say, I'm a bit worried about being called names in the council chamber, so I won't make a rational decision. The rational decision is to be measured. The rational decision is to put our residents first, because if you slash and burn, I can assure you the most vulnerable will suffer. We have had it from the LGA, Councillor Payne has mentioned, how impressed they were with our approach. The fact that we had a plan. Of course, we'll keep lobbying, but I'm assuming you've all looked at the central government finances. We need to be sustainable. We need to do it in a measured way, and we need to be clear what this council is delivering and how it is going to deliver it. If that means getting in human engine, coming in with a fresh pair of eyes, not sullied by the politics or the debates, then so be it. I fully support this strategy, and I really hope you will, members. We've had elections mentioned, not by me, but over on the other side of the table. I think that's clear where those minds are at. Please, can we do the right thing for the council? There is opportunity to revisit. Councillor Walter's alteration, I think, is excellent. It makes explicit what was implicit. This is a direction of travel with fundamental principles. If we need to revisit it, if we need to make a rational change to it, then we will, and we will do it together. This must serve our residents going into the future, and I'm confident that it will. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Members, anybody else? Councillor Abraham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think these reserves have been built up prudently over many years, and these reserves are public money at the end of the day. So what are they for if they're not to be used for our residents in a prudent way when we're in a crisis? So I will be supporting this motion on the grounds that we should be using reserves which have been built up from public money for the public.
Thank you. Saw another hand somewhere. Was it? Councillor Payne.
Councillor Waller, she's only spoken on the.
Councillor Waller.
Councillor Waller only spoke on the amendment, not on the main.
No, she's spoken on the substantive.
Did you?
We're on the substantive.
You spoke on the substantive item.
Yes, but not for my full time.
Councillor spoken once already, Chair.
Sorry?
Councillor Waller has spoken once already on the substantive.
On the
motion.
substantive?
Yes.
But not for my full number of minutes. And the
procedure will
practice has
simply
always
say-
been to allow the full length of time.
The procedure will simply say members can speak once.
Sorry. Can't allow it. Councillor Payne. You're exercising your right to come back.
Thank you. I agree with the comments that have been made down this side of the table. Lucy's speech was very good. We need to become leaner, fitter, smaller, and that's not going to happen overnight. The members' projects are just part of that, of a much, much bigger picture. We need to change the way we work, and we need to do it in a safe way so that we don't disrupt the services that we are offering. And we need to take our residents into consideration when we're doing those things, and we need to consult. So it's going to take time. We're not trying to rush this. We don't want to rush it. It's a big exercise. Reserves are for the bad times, and we've all played a part in making this council quite a fit council. And now it's payback time, and we absolutely need to use those reserves to the best advantage and help the public with that money. It is their money. We are custodians of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Nobody else. So the recommendations, we're doing them individually, or not? Don't need to do it now.
It seems illogical to do so because 2A and 2B rely on point 1.
Yeah.
But it's a matter for you, Chair.
On the recommendation of the Cabinet approves the financial strategy as set out in the report 158/2022 with the limitations set out in 2A and 2B. 2A, the Council understands that the calculations in this strategy are based on the best information available this time and for the purpose of the calculations and only for that purpose. Make reference to raising council tax by the maximum allowed under the current rules each year during the period of strategy. However, nothing in this strategy should be taken to predetermine the level of council tax or rising council tax in any year. The actual level of the council tax will be calculated each year in the normal way according to the need and will then be subject to approval by the meeting of the full council. It has been confirmed. Proposed and seconded, I'll get it right in a minute. All those in favour?
I'll make that 13, Chair.
Against? 5.
5.
Abstentions? 4, 5.
That's carried,
So the
Chairman.
motion is carried. Thank you very much, everybody. Item 10B is the exclusion of press and public. I know that efforts have been made to provide a public report for consideration, but the clearer advice from officers is that the full contents of the next report from Cabinet cannot be divulged in public session, including the recommendations. Could I therefore ask a member to move that the press and public be excluded for the reasons set out on the agenda? Councillor Stevenson can have a seconder. Councillor Oxley. All those in favour?
That is unanimous from members present, Chairman.
Thank you very much. We're back on, Tom.
Yes, Chairman.
Thank you. Item 11, there's no reports from committees of the council. Reports from the scrutiny.
Mr. Chairman, we normally take just a tacit agreement that we are going back in.
Yeah, we're back
full
in
session. That's
Yeah,
all. I
sorry,
would get a
for
tacit
members of the public. We are
To
back.
reaffirm, Chairman, the Zoom
Thank
webcast has resumed.
Sorry. Item 13, joint arrangements and external organisations. Councillor Waller, we'll go around the table. I'll go around the table.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillors, I attended a meeting of the Carlton Hayes charity on your behalf on the 13th of October this year. As always, the majority, if not in this case, this meeting, 100% of the applicants for grants were from organisations who in practice are supporting residents in Leicester City and Leicestershire, although some of them, their remit extends into Rutland, but they don't currently have any Rutland clients. It was interesting, though, that we are getting more from Leicestershire, and at least one has commented or had commented on the fact that they were encouraged to look at the Carlton Hayes charity by officers of the particular council area they came from, it was a district. So I would urge all of you, and I would urge the Chief Executive to encourage officers who come across organisations that might be eligible for charitable funding for mental health within Rutland to make an application. One point, though, that was interesting for us, there was discussion about the refurbishment of Rutland Memorial Hospital, and it was quite clear that the expectation is that some support for mental health will operate from the Rutland Memorial once it's reopened, and some of the NHS organisations, I'm going to say NHS organisations, but that's not actually accurate. Those who are working within the NHS, who will be working within that environment, will be entitled to bid for some support as well. So I'm hopeful that Rutland will get included at some point in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ainsley.
Thank you. I just really want to give you an update about the activities of the Armed Forces Championship. So you may recall the Rutland Veterans Wellbeing Hub, which we held at Whitby in September. I'm now pleased to report that the Wellbeing Hub has started its new life in Longton at the moment at Rutland Museum. That's absolutely wonderful. So I don't know who did that. Was that you, Mark? Thank you. The hub will now open on a regular basis on the first Wednesday of each month between 10:30 and 12:30, and we'll be supported by volunteers from across Rutland as well as professional staff from the Rutland branch. We also visited 7 Regiment Royal Logistics Corps at Kendrew Barracks last month. During the visit, we discussed arrangements for the Remembrance Parade, as 7 Regiment will be providing the parade commander, Staff Sergeant Major Smith, and around 40 soldiers. So that was good stuff. Whilst at Kendrew, we also had discussions with the commanding officer and the regimental sergeant major around the wellbeing of families and the regiment's pending move in 2023. More about wellbeing a little later. And now the bit I thoroughly enjoyed. We then moved on to an improvised field kitchen training demonstration and enjoyed an excellent lunch in the field and forever eating breakfast or lunches. On the 1st of October, the parade commander, Warrant Officer 2 Staff Sergeant Major Charlie Bates of the 1st Military Working Dog Regiment, as well, and the RBL walked the route of the Remembrance Parade to iron out any last minute wrinkles. This year we're expecting circa 217 parade participants, which will include a cadet band and around 9 working dogs. The dogs, of course, will be impeccably behaved, unlike in previous years. As already mentioned by Councillor Oxley, the H&P stocking poppy display was put up, and I have to say that this striking display of handmade poppies not only honours our fallen, but also represents a bridge between the Armed Forces community in Rutland and the military veterans at Stockholm. The display will be there for about a week. Other good news is that since taking over as Armed Forces Champion, I've been especially keen to improve the lot of our Armed Forces families who are resident in Rutland. I'm therefore pleased to announce that we are re-establishing a quarterly Forces Family Forum in support of our Forces families. The first forum will be held at Kendrew Barracks on the 22nd of November, with the barracks kindly providing both a venue and refreshments, yet more eating. When will it ever stop? That's all I ask really. Attendance at the forum will include RCC officers, members of the Leicestershire NHS, unit welfare teams, local schools, the Department of Work and Pensions, and national organisations such as the Sickle Services Family Federation. And the list goes on. Additionally, arrangement will be made for 2 guest speakers, one on the Aim High and Young Carers Initiative being launched this month, and the other providing a general update in 3 parts. The MOD Early Learning and Childcare Support Fund, the Living in Their Shoes event, which some of you may remember, started earlier this year, which will be looking at the event we held in June and looking ahead to plans for 2023. And last but not least, the Service Children's Promise. As the Armed Forces Champion, I very much look forward to chairing the first of what we hope will be many forums. Finally, in the next few days, hopefully things will be less hectic. I'll be circulating a written update to members on the Armed Forces Covenant legislation. This is particularly pertinent as the legislation is likely to come into effect by the end of this month. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mill.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a few words on the CFA. I have 3 meetings and 1 award ceremony to attend before the end of the year. So I will be issuing, as is my usual style, a full written report for members before the year end or early into the new year. However, I would just want to mention a little more on the cadet evening that you mentioned in your opening remarks, which was hosted by Casterton College in early October the 6th. At that event, I arranged for the Fire Authority to present their full range of safety and awareness to the younger people, very much as members will have seen at the evening that many of us attended at the Oakham station. Such, I think, was the success of that, and that's the Hazard Express, the virtual reality, the safety bike. The head of Casterton College has immediately booked that for 2 days in the spring for the whole of the school to have that particular range of safety, early drivers, motorcycles, etc. And that will be then taken forward, and there's already interesting contact made through to Catletts College and the UCC. And we are also inviting the appropriate staff from our private schools to experience what is on offer, because that can then be rolled out to them as well. Of other significance is that the commanding officer of Kendrew Barracks was really impressed with what was on offer and has arranged for that, if you like, roadshow to be presented at Kendrew Barracks at a date to be arranged. So really, the reason for telling you this evening, members, is that you see an excellent fire authority doing real work in the community aimed at our younger people. Because as you know, when you see a bunch of flowers on the roadside, unfortunately, it is normally young drivers. So the fire authority is doing a splendid job in this county for the safety of our younger people, and indeed all the people that actually, and we're a little older, we can never stop learning on these things. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Baines.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I attended 2 meetings of the Rural Community Council. I did put a few copies of the annual review round. I'm sorry there wasn't one each, so do please share, because I shall be going into a little bit more detail than usual on these reports, Chairman. Other people may well, as I did when I first became a trustee on your behalf, think that the Rural Community Council really dealt with village halls and not a lot else. I think this review does show the wide range, and I'd just like to draw your attention to 2 things specific to Rutland. Rural Coffee Connect, which is the first of those had been going for 2 years. The funding has now ceased, but if you attended, as I did at Wing, one or two of those, and if I could just quote the paragraph to you, I think it sums it all up. When starting out our journey into the project, we bravely asked ourselves whether things as simple as just a coffee, a chat and a smile can combat loneliness. The answer is a resounding yes. And certainly on the event that I attended, that was clearly the case. And the next one is called Changing Connections. And again, there is a full article there, but basically it is looking at people who, in fact, either cannot get an appointment with a GP or are getting an appointment with a GP for something that is actually inappropriate. And so this was only for Melton and Rutland over the whole area. And in that time, and again, it's an update from that 53 people who've been helped in the time this was printed. It was by then up to 75. There was a saving of £110,000. Now, that is calculated on a national formula, and it shows when you don't have to engage a GP with an appointment, the notional saving. So it's not money that's actually been spent that is saved, but is saving money that is not going to be spent. And I did ask if I could have, and I have just received them from the director, a breakdown, because I thought you would be interested in the Rutland figures. 23 people in Rutland were helped. They came from 13 different communities. 18 of them were simply matters of loneliness. 5 of them were mental health cases. And in terms of costing, the cost to Rutland, well, it didn't cost Rutland, it was an NHS grant, but the cost in Rutland was roughly 13,500. The savings were 29,000. And that equates very, very roughly for every pound that was spent on that project, there was a saving of £2.13. And I think you will agree that this is really a tremendously worthwhile exercise. So that was the first meeting, which was the AGM. And then the second one, which was a very scaled down awards ceremony. Otherwise, Mr. Chairman, I'm sure you would have been invited for a dinner, but it was a sandwich and a crisp. And the invitation of this was cut down. The awards are given for various things, and I will itemize one or two in a second, but it is always very difficult to see where a particular nomination should fit in a particular category. I think you will see that when I just itemize what has actually happened. Rutland went home at night with 7 awards, which I think is roughly a third of those. And when you consider that is the whole of Leicestershire and Rutland, it's a tremendous achievement. I'm counting in the 7 the Young Farmers Club because that is Leicestershire and Rutland, but the remaining 6 were all at Rutland. VAR Transport got an award on that. Wissendine, the Good Neighbours scheme, an award on that. I'm sure board members are probably aware of this, but other board members may not be. Greetham, Community of the Year, and Barradon, the shop, supporting people. Again, you will see how these categories do overlap. And finally, the best village hall, the best improved village hall, Rutland absolutely swept the board. Ashwell and South Lefton were joint winners in that category. I spoke to quite a number of the Rutland people who were there afterwards, and they all said to me, Chairman, oh, we're just here as representatives. It's the team team behind us. And I think, again, ward members whose villages were in that would recognise that where you get that sort of cooperation and dynamism, you've got a pretty healthy village. And I must say, I felt tremendously proud to be there as your representative. And it's, if you like, soft diplomacy. The influential people there, and we have two very good friends in the president, Lady Gretton, and the chairman, Mr. Martin Traynor, who are very keen to see Rutland getting its fair share of resources in that. And finally, and this is not a case of nepotism, Chairman, because the person speaking to me didn't know of my relationship to your leader, and particularly said how impressed they were. Well, I think it must be based on the on your monthly reports, because they hadn't actually met you, but they said how pleased they were in the way Rutland was going. So, and given the negative criticism that we've been having, I think, again, it shows how important these external things, and I know Councillor Waller going to various other East Midlands things, the reputation of Rutland is important because it means that our neighbours respect us. So thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you. Excuse me. Councillor Oxley.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a short update. It's the annual Fair Trade Christmas Market is taking place at the Castle on Saturday, the 19th of November. It's organised by the Rutland Fair Trade Group, and all will be welcome to attend. It's an excellent place to buy Christmas presents. Responsibly sourced stocking fillers for family and friends. So that's the Castle, Saturday the 19th of November. I just asked to be updated.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Thank you for that. Item 14, there's no notice of motion. Item 15, the appointment of the independent person. Councillor Payne. You're going to introduce the report.
This is the independent person that's required.
Can't hear. Sorry.
I need to see this. Yeah, this is to appoint the independent person that assists the council in promoting and maintaining high standards of conduct amongst its elected and co-opted members. And it's a reappointment, I understand. Mr. Gordon Grimes was actually appointed by the council as an independent member in April 2014, and his recent appointment has expired. So it's just to reinstate Mr. Grimes as that independent person.
Seconder, please. Yeah. Councillor Stevenson, members. Councillor Andrew Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the chairman of the Conduct Committee, I need to reiterate how important it is to have this important person, because they give the view of essentially the man or woman on the Clapham omnibus, and are completely independent of everything that we do here. So it's very important that we have this person on that committee.
Thank you. Councillor Waller.
Thank you. My understanding from the report was that the candidates were interviewed by the monitoring officer. When Mr. Grimes was appointed, he was actually interviewed by a panel of members, and I was one of those, and he was not our only choice, and he was impressive. And for the period of time I sat on the conduct committee, I was very pleased with the advice and support he gave the conduct committee. So I'm more than happy to endorse this motion.
Thank you. Anybody else? It's been proposed and seconded. All in favour?
Unanimous, Chairman.
Thank you. Item 16, political balance and allocation of seats to political groups. Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you very much, Chair. As members are aware, Councillor Walters announced that he was moving from the aligned independent group to become a non-aligned independent. That obviously has triggered a need to reflect, review and produce a report on the political balance. Obviously, the monitoring officer's eagle legal beagle eye has been over this. It has been discussed with group leaders, and it has also non-aligned independents have also had the opportunity to comment before I've brought this paper. So I'm really not going to say much more about it. It's fairly straightforward. I'm proposing it and I look for a seconder, Chair.
Yep. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Waller. Members. Oh, sorry. Did you want to second it?
I am very happy to second it.
Thank
Yes, certainly. And what Councillor Stevenson has said about involving members is absolutely correct and excellent. I just want some clarification though on Appendix A, and that is who is on the Employment and Appeals Committee from Together for Rutland. I have to admit I have a vested interest as chairman of that committee, but we can't have two people, can we?
Is it an either or?
We appoint, and then if privately we have a known substitute, then that's a process we do within our groups.
Oh, are you going to, because I feel as though it is a technical situation.
It is, but obviously through you, Chairman, it is when seats are allocated to a group, it is ultimately for the group leader. I believe that this has arisen from a typo based on a previous version, because we've had quite a few versions of this appendix over the last year. But I do know that Councillor Brown did subsequently confirm who that appointment was from his group, which was Councillor Fox.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Councillor Brown, for making that confirmation.
It has been proposed and seconded. Nobody else got anything to say? All in favour? All those in favour?
I believe that is unanimous, Chairman.
Thank you. There's no urgent business. I'd just like to, because neither of you mentioned it tonight, congratulate Uppingham and Bloom. Would you like to speak?
Go for it, Councillor Oxley.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Uppingham and Bloom have won the gold at the national competition, and unfortunately, they won't be able to go on and try and win the whole national competition. They've won the East Midlands regional gold for all the participating councils, but it was quite difficult this year, quite fierce competition. And because, of course, Uppingham and Bloom don't get any funding from their council, whereas a lot of other towns do. So I'm very pleased to support Uppingham and Bloom in all their efforts. I'd just like to see the signs at the entrance of the town change, but that's that's another matter. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. It's they are important to us all, Oakham and Uppingham. But congratulations to Uppingham for doing that. It looked lovely this year. I really enjoyed going through Uppingham each time. No urgent business, so we'll close the meeting at 16 minutes past 9. Thank you very much for your attendance.